And I'm gonna. Good morning. I think we're live for real this time. If you watched our previous screen in which the countdown kept repeating itself, I apologize for that. I would like to say it was the new software that I'm using, but it was probably the user. But we are back. This is Latanya with Always Up Coaching. Welcome to Self Care Saturday. This is going to be a new series that will appear every Saturday, sometimes recorded, but most of the time live, in which we talk about self care. So, if you don't know me, I'm Latanya with Always Up Coaching. I am a life coach, but I'm also an RN, a public speaker, and a health equity advocate. Um, so, the purpose of this show is just to encourage you to incorporate self-care into your lifestyle and maybe give you some examples of additional self-care. But first off, before we get started, I invite you to follow us at Always Up Coaching. We actually have multiple platforms. I have my personal page, which some of you may be watching on now, and I also have my coaching page and the business page. I will a little bit later post a link to my co-host Laverne, who is with me, and
Hey y'all.
she is an RN as well, an educator and a health advocate. And we may have later joining Lacole Smith. She's having technical difficulties. She's actually in a rural area right now, and the service is not that good. So she may or may not join us. We're hoping she is. But Lacole is an author. She just released her first book a couple months ago, which is doing very well. And she's also
It's a really good book, y'all.
yeah, it's
Check it out.
excellent. I'm gonna put a link to the book in the comments too. But she's also a health advocate. In particular, she's a cancer advocate. So she'll maybe joining us a little bit later. If she jumps on, I don't want y'all to be surprised that somebody is new to the bunch. Also, I want to let y'all know that I am having a giveaway. Always Up Coaching is giving away $100 cash
Yay.
and
Wow.
some journals to celebrate my personal page going over 10,000 followers, right? So we're
Whoa.
calling it the 10K giveaway for that reason, right? So the entry form for that is going to be in the comment section.
Can I
Um,
enter Latanya?
no, close friends,
Join it.
families, and
Join it.
co-hosts are not eligible to apply.
Oh man.
Yeah, sorry about that, Vern. Not this time, not this time. Yep. But
Maybe next time, y'all.
yeah, maybe next time. Maybe next time.
Join it. I tried,
But I'm
y'all.
putting the link right now in the comment section. So give me a second and I'll get that on. I just don't want to forget. So I'm going to do it right now. And the qualifications to meet the criteria for a full entry, you have to follow all my socials. So when you click that entry link, it's going to have links to each of my socials. All of the Facebooks, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube will be on there. So
Okay.
just click each of the links, follow everywhere. We're going to draw the winner on March 1st. And then we'll pick 9 people because I have 8 journals and $100 to give away. The $100 will be given away via Cash App, Venmo, or Zelle.
Oh
Um,
wow. Just a
and
reminder,
when I
my birthday is March 4th.
Laverne's gonna want her money pinned to her shirt. Um, but once you follow all those, once we draw the people who win, then we'll just check and make sure you did what you were supposed to do, and then we'll award the money. And the
Wow.
journals, I'll mail the journals to you.
I
So
like a
one of
good
the things I will do is reach out to you for your address. So
one.
make sure you enter. Don't forget. The second thing is that we're going to be doing this every Saturday, possibly at 11 a.m. But we want feedback on what is a good time if you want to engage live for us to come on the days we are able to come on live. Okay. So if there's a specific time on Saturday you prefer us to come on live, if you're watching this, even if you're watching in the replay, put that in the comment section. Okay.
Or if it's a certain topic you want us to discuss.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If there's a certain type of self care that you're interested in and you want to learn more about, um, let us know. Hopefully, sometimes we will maybe be live at certain places doing self care. So I look forward to that,
Need a
and I'm pretty
massage.
excited about that. But yeah, if you have any special requests, put it in the comments section.
Right.
I also want to invite y'all to watch our new series called Mental Health Mondays, and it's every Monday evening. And we're going to be talking about various types of mental health issues, communicating with mental health, how to take care of yourself, communicate with your doctor, just anything mental health we're going to talk about. And this Monday, we're talking about addiction, okay? And it's not just addiction to drugs or alcohol. We're talking about addiction to other things as well, y'all.
Yeah.
So if you want to know what those other things are, you want to talk about addiction. I was discussing with somebody the other day. Everybody has a vice. We all have that thing
Right.
that we're addicted to, right?
Exactly.
Unfortunately, for some of us, the addiction is unhealthy,
It's
right?
cheesecake for me,
And
y'all.
even healthy addictions can become unhealthy.
Right.
For example, exercise. There is a
Right.
point in which you're exercising too much.
Right.
Um, So I have Lacole just jumped on. I'm gonna attempt to add
Hey,
her,
Nicole.
and hopefully she'll be able to stay on.
Hey,
Welcome,
Nicole.
Nicole Smith.
Hello, hello. How y'all
Um,
doing?
we're
All
doing
right.
great. We're doing great. So I was just about to bounce it over to Laverne to introduce herself, but I'm gonna come to you first, Lacole. Tell us a little bit about yourself so they know who's communicating with them this morning.
Well, my name is Lacole Smith, and I am the author of Leaps of Faith. My book just came out. It has a journal that goes with it. I also have a journal called God Sent Notes and More, which is good for sermon notes. I am the CEO of Motivational Talk Dialogue Show, which I host 2 times a week. 2 times a month. It's on a Thursday at 7 o'clock. Sometimes the time varies. It's the second and the fourth Thursday of each month. So when you have time, jump on there. I have an author page where you can keep up with all of my books and my endeavors that I have going on, workshops or whatever I have that's coming your way. I am the CEO and founder of Motivational Talk, which is for ladies only, and we talk about all types of things. Anything that's going to motivate, inspire, take you to the next level. We are there to talk about that as well. So I'm just a simple little country girl that's doing some big things in a big world.
Amen.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Nicole. Laverne, tell us about some more about you.
Hey y'all, I'm Laverne Scott Bright. I am a registered nurse, a clinical educator, and I'm a healthcare advocate. Um, I'm very strong in my faith. I'm happy Latanya and Vicky invited me to join them because I can offer a different perspective to our talks. Um, right now, I'm just getting off the ground. I'm starting a business. Outside of here, it's a trucking business. And I also want to just say, Vicky, your book is amazing. So y'all, I suggest that y'all get out there and get that book because it's amazing and it is life changing. And at the same time, I want to tell you about my sister-in-law. She has a women's fellowship group that has been life changing for me. Also, it's called She Declared War. Y'all check her out on Instagram and Facebook. Her name is Nedra Nelson Wright. She is awesome.
Awesome, awesome. So, real quick, I'm putting Lacole's website in the comment section for y'all because as she talks, you're gonna want to read her book. And you're like, let me go
Read
see
that
what
book,
this book.
y'all.
Let me go see what this book is about. So I want to make
Yes,
sure y'all know
it's
where
some good
to go
stuff
to
in that
get
book,
it.
y'all.
All right, I'm putting her website in here. If you order her book from her website, it's available on Amazon. But if you order from her website, you will be able to get a signed copy mailed to you.
Right.
So
And
I'm not
Latanya,
sure
also
what
I
I may
wanted
have
to
to.
shout out Always Up Coaching because I am a product of Always Up Coaching.
Yes.
And I'm stepping out on faith, and I'm putting my fears behind me, and I'm here.
And I'm so proud of you. Um, I like to call myself a positive bully. I'm very good at bullying people in outside of their comfort zone. And that's typically where you find all of your wins, right? You going outside of your comfort zone. No Super
Exactly.
Bowl was won by being, relaxing in a comfortable, practicing in a comfortable environment, right? We
Yes.
always have to practice outside of our comfort zones.
Right. Get
And that's
comfortable
one of
with
the
the
things I
uncomfortable.
do as a coach. I'm going to push you outside of your comfort zone in a very loving fashion.
Right.
Um, so as I get this last comment in the comments section for Nicole's book, I am going to tell y'all that next week I will have a workbook for y'all. I've already started it. These two ladies haven't even seen it yet. It's something I started working on last night.
Okay.
But I went into my coaching archives and I found some information, and I'm compiling a workbook that as you go through these weeks with us and follow us along, learning and about self-care, and also just, having your mind open to what self-care is needed for you, you'll have a workbook to go along with it.
Right.
So make sure you come next week, because I'm gonna have a link to download that workbook available on next week. So to get us started, I'm going to talk about the 6 elements of self-care, so we can all be on the same page, right, as far as what self-care is.
Right.
So there's 6 elements or components to self-care. The first 2 go in a specific order, 1, 2, because they are the foundation of self-care. And number 1 is to embrace your individuality. You cannot care about yourself at all unless you love who you are and you embrace yourself and
Right.
the unique person that God made, right?
Exactly.
You cannot do it. And after that, the next element is to trust yourself. Learn to embrace and love yourself, and learn to trust yourself. Trust your thoughts, emotions, feelings, intuitions. And that is what will guide you into what is best for you as an individual. And you'll be able to appropriately care for yourself, right? So the next 4 that I'm going to say are in no particular order. So the next one is loving your physical self. So an important element of self-care is taking care of your body. If your body is not healthy, it can impact your emotions, it can impact your spirit, it can impact your mind, right?
Impact
So
everything.
loving your physical self is
Right.
next. Followed by loving your emotional self, taking care of your emotional. Be a guardian of your heart, right? Remember we said, you got to listen to yourself, right? You got to trust yourself. If your intuition is saying a certain person makes you feel a certain type of way, don't go around that person. Guard your emotions, right?
Right.
The next is loving your intellectual self. I just talked about taking care of your body, but part of loving your intellectual self will be learning about any prescription meds you take, learning about any disease process or diagnoses you have.
Exactly.
So we've got to constantly be learning and growing in order to take care of the different aspects of self-care. As that example I gave, physical care, take care of your body. If you don't know about your drugs, you can't take care of your body properly.
Exactly.
Also, stimulating your brain is good for your long-term cognitive health as you grow, as you become an older adult and into your elder years.
Right.
And the last of the 6 elements is loving your spiritual self, having a relationship with your higher power, whatever your belief system may be. I am a Christian, so loving my spiritual self involves reading the Bible, praying, various things, right? Whatever I think I need as an individual to nourish my spirit. So
Right.
those are the elements of self-care, right? So as we go through in future shows, we're going to be revisiting these things, and we might have specific episodes where we just talk about emotional self-care or just intellectual self-care. And sometimes we'll just talk about one element of self-care. We may just go somewhere and get a massage and talk about how massage is an excellent form of self-care.
Mm-hmm.
But it's gonna, as the show evolves, it may change a little bit, but it's only gonna change for the better. And what will make it better is your feedback. Okay, so make sure you tell us what you want to know about self-care. Tell us what time would be good for this show to air on Saturdays, whether either live or recorded. Just give us your feedback, and we'll be able to make it better. So if you don't know me, I am a registered nurse. I said that before. I used to be a quiet child. I have grown and flourished over the years to becoming the life coach that I am now. And I'm giving the advice now instead of needing the advice. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my self-care, and then I'm going to bump it off to each of my co-hosts to talk a little bit about their versions of self-care, and know that this is not a complete end-all be-all list, but we'll talk about some of our favorite forms of self-care. And so my favorite form of self-care right now is doing what I'm doing right now. And it captures many elements of my self-care. It captures my emotional, my intellectual, my spiritual.
Walking your purpose.
Being a life coach is, I feel, my calling. I've always been the person who shared my life lessons, shared my stories of adversity, because I've always said that, my personal experiences aren't meant for my personal development alone. I can use it to help other people as well.
Exactly.
So now I'm blessed that I'm able to do that as a partial way to earn a living. And so doing this is me following my purpose, my mission, my calling per se. So it takes care of that spiritual element. Also, it makes me feel good to do what I'm supposed to do. When you're walking, living your purpose, your dream, your vision, your mission, you are more likely to be emotionally healthy.
Yes.
And also intellectually, I have to learn. I know a lot, but I still have to learn more in order to give my clients the best of me, right?
Right.
And to give you the best of me,
Right.
you who are watching this. So this is my favorite version of self-care. This is how I like to spend a Saturday morning, doing this kind of stuff. And so I hope you will join us more often. Another type of self-care that I do love is, and this covers a little bit of intellectual and emotion, I like to engage in hobbies, a lot of crafting hobbies, and also creating hobbies, and even in the tech world as far as creation.
I
But
think hobbies, the weirder, the better with hobbies.
yes,
I had a
yes,
friend that was a beekeeper, and I wouldn't have
that's
never
so
thought that
interesting.
being a beekeeper would be a part of self-care, but
Yeah,
it
I've
is.
heard that bees can bring a peace about you, which makes so much sense when you think about it,
Yeah.
because bees have a collective energy that they use to find one another and communicate, right? So as you're
Mhm.
around them, that energy is flowing off of them, and I can imagine it could be very relaxing.
Right. Right.
One of my unusual um, self-care things that I do as far as a hobby is yarn arts, and that's knitting, crocheting, making things with yarn. And it's one of those things that I wax and wane in. There's times where I'm just like can't do anything but work with yarn, and there's other times where I'll forget about it for a period of time. Um, but I actually more recently purchased a yarn arts kit per se for my nieces. I have all boys, so I like to think my nieces are very similar to me, my surrogate daughters in a way. So because I get so much benefit when I work with yarn as far as relaxation and calm and, forgetting about the stressors of life. I wanted them to early in their life have a venue in which to provide self-care to themselves with a hobby. So another version of self-care for me is learning in general. I am a avid audiobooker. I like to listen to fantasy, all kinds of fiction, fantasy, drama, crime, sci-fi. I listen to just about everything. My favorite type of genre is actually personal development. No surprise there. Um, so I do listen to a lot of personal development books, and I actually prefer audio to reading because audio allows me to do other things physically, like wash dishes, cut the
Right.
grass, whatever, while I'm doing self care. And you can those people who say they don't have time for self care, you do. You just got to be creative. And so that's a way that I
Yeah.
have been creative in providing self care for
What you
myself
reading
is
right
listening to
now?
audiobooks.
What are you reading
hmm
right now?
Right now, I am reading The Power of Meaning
Ah,
by Emily Esfahani.
okay, okay.
I do actually have an AUPC book club, and our book club is it's very small right now. It's only 4 people, but when I tell you the best discussions come out of books that you wouldn't think they would come out of.
Yeah,
But we had chapter 1 last week of this book, and it was an awesome discussion, and I can't wait for this week as well.
awesome.
But it's a way to nurture your mind, your spirit, your emotions, right? And I spoke about them in separate elements, but they all overlap, right? It's
Mhm.
very hard to have only one and not the others, right? Because if you're fully emotionally healthy, you're going to be seeking to take care of your body. You're going to be seeking to take care of your mind,
Right,
right? And you're going to be thinking about the meaning of life, and you're going to be getting to those spiritual thought processes, right?
exactly.
Um, if you're 100% physically healthy, often, if you're taking care of yourself physically, you're also going to be motivated to take care of other elements of self care.
Right,
So they kind of overlap and go hand in hand, but it's very important that we not ignore one element or another, and that we keep a balance in life. Life is about balance, everything. Just like we have seasons where we have daylight and darkness, right? And the balance shifts throughout the year based on the
right,
need for things to grow, right?
right.
That is in all things in life, balance is important. So I'm going to pass it off to you, Laverne, and you talk about self-care, what it means to you, and give us some examples.
Okay. Well, self-care, well, let me tell you about my past thoughts about self-care. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was a nurse working 24/7, had 3 jobs at one time, and I just thought that was the life until I got sick with I'm asthmatic with the asthmatic episode, ended up in the hospital, and everything and everybody who I thought I was responsible for was pretty much on their own. That's when I realized I had to start taking care of myself. Because I would always hear that person saying, I'm going on a 3-day weekend, or I'm, vacationing. And I'm like, oh, that must be nice. I wish I could because I'm so busy at like, who's going to take care of everybody else? Because I'm that person that's responsible for taking care of everybody else. Um, and I think that's where a lot of us get, we so busy taking care of others that we don't stop and take the time to take care of ourselves until God stops you dead in your tracks and you realize that you are very important. And that goes back to scripture, the second commandment where it says, love thy neighbor as you love thyself. And if you can't love yourself, enough to take care of yourself, how are you going to be able to take care of your neighbor? Or how are you going to be able to take care of your children, your husband, if you're not taking care of yourself? So that brings me to some of the things that I personally do to take care of myself. One thing that I do is gratitude. I keep a gratitude journal. I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for, 3 different things every day before I go to bed. It can be just something, really big or something really small, but it puts life into perspective if you can go back and just read that journal and just see, I have a lot of stuff to be thankful for. Wow. Another thing, like I talked to Latanya about earlier, aromatherapy. I love aromatherapy. I love candles. I have my candle going right now. I love essential oils. One of my favorite is Bath and Body Works, the lavender and white sage. It's just so common. And as I think, Latanya, I didn't think about Audible or books I love to read. That's another self care thing that I do. Let's see. Journaling. Oh, exercise. Exercise. Exercise can be self-care, but you want to make sure it's something that you enjoy. You don't want to run and you don't like running. So one thing I do is dance. I love just to turn on the music on Saturday mornings and just, dance while I'm cleaning. So at the same time, I'm getting exercise. So that's one other self-care. Um, Meditation is one of my favorite parts of self-care. And um, I know the Christian definition of meditation is, we kind of veer away from that, but I want you to just rethink your definition of meditation. Like I talked about before, contemplative prayer. I meditate on scripture. My favorite scripture to meditate on is John 3:30. And it says, increase more of you and less of me. So I just, 5 minutes of breathing in and out, meditating on that scripture. It really relaxes me and it really takes care of my mental aspect of my mind. But like I say, taking care of your mind, your body, your soul is very important. I know a lot we look at what is it? Doing your hair, getting your nails done, that's all. Getting a massage. Me, of course, I love having massages. So I get a massage like once a week. But getting your hair and nails done, I look at it like this. I want to be more mentally, I guess you can say, Latanya. Mental care, because I feel like if I can't get my nails done or I can't get my hair done, I want to be able to still feel good about myself. So self-care is very important at that aspect. So if you can take care of your mind and your soul, your spirit, on how you look at yourself, whereas you don't need to have your hair done or you don't need to have your nails done to feel good about yourself, um, is a lot to do with self-care. And at the same time, Latanya, I think about going on trips, vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Vacation is a self-care, but at the same time you got to look at what kind of vacation you're going on, because you can go on a
Absolutely.
family vacation and you can spend a lot of your time still on vacation catering to your kids, catering to your husband, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll need a vacation from a vacation. So,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
want to be mindful to that if you're, doing self-care. And, and at the same time, it still can be a form of self-care. You're getting away from that daily hustle and bustle, your daily routine, and just relaxing and letting the day flow. But self-care is very important.
Yeah. Just to piggyback on what you said about vacation, self care for me, vacation is a huge self care thing. Um, I discovered some years ago that going on vacation without my children was a must. Um, just because I have three boys, and the kind of vacations they like are theme park vacations. They like fun, fun, fun. And to be honest, I do too. I love those fun vacations to where you're just going nonstop and you're not thinking about the fact that you have bills or a job to go back to.
Right?
You're just having fun with your family, right?
Uh-huh.
So I love those too. However, what I discovered was I can never fully vacate life if my children are there, right? That's what
Right.
vacation is. You're vacating your
Yeah.
normal everyday life. But unfortunately, my kids are part of that normal everyday life and
Mhm.
busyness, right?
Mhm. Right.
So sometimes as parents, we need to get away from our children, or even as adults without children. Sometimes, you may be taking care of a parent, right? You may be the
Right.
provider of a parent. You may need to have a vacation in which you're not responsible for that elder parent, right?
So, so Latanya, so what about us that can't take, like we have small kids and you don't have the
Hmm.
babysitter, or you have parents to where you are their sole caretaker and you have to be
Hmm.
there, or you don't have the money to
Hmm.
vacate. So do you have some,
Tips.
tips on that? Yeah.
Um, you gotta have people in your life who can provide support for you
Mhm.
and secure care for your children so you can escape at least a day at a time.
Mhm.
And I was blessed to have mothers and sisters that I could leave my kids in the house, go do something else and not think about it, right?
Mhm.
But I do recognize that there's people who don't have those people around them.
Mhm.
And in the future, I would like to talk about how to find those type of people around you that are safe providers of your children. Because I've been a single parent.
Mhm. Mhm.
I've been a single parent for a very, very long time. And there has been times when maybe some family members weren't available and I needed good solid babysitters that I wouldn't have to worry about my kids when I wasn't there. And
Hmm.
it's a challenge finding those people. It really is. So to find someone that you can be gone for an entire day, like they come in the morning and you come back late at night, to where you went out and you did the hair, the nails, the massage, and you escaped
Right.
motherhood,
Right.
or fatherhood,
Hmm.
for a while, because there's a lot of single fathers these days.
Hmm.
It's hard to find that person. So in the future, we'll talk about that as an element of self care. How do you escape your life? How do you find the resources to vacate and do self care?
And
Um, but yeah, it's a hard thing. But if you can't do a week, do a day. Just find somebody to do a day, and you may have to get your people to take shifts. Okay, so and so is
right.
going to get the morning. You going to show up at 11 a.m. and so is going to show up at 3 p.m. and that way the whole day is covered, right? You have to get creative, but you have to make your care a priority, because once you make it a priority and you make it determined that you're going to do it, the
Yeah.
ideas will come. The ideas will
Right.
come.
You got to get creative. And me being a single parent before, with small kids, and just sometimes just having to just go to the park and take the kids
Hmm.
with you to the park, just
Hmm.
sit at the park, and for an hour I felt that you wasn't spending money, you wasn't going very far. It's right up the street. That was a form of just relaxing and getting you know out of the daily hustle and bustle and relieving some stress.
I did that a little bit when my kids were little. You get to an environment where you can set them free to play, right?
Hmm.
To where you can see them and you can monitor their level of safety.
Right.
Um, but also audiobook in the ear, right?
Right. Right.
Listening to the music,
Hmm.
sipping on your coffee, like
Yeah.
escaping in the
My
moment,
tea.
being mindful of, okay, I see my kids, they are safe. I'm taking a
Right.
moment to let go in a way,
That's good.
and
That's
not keep
good.
that same high level of intensity in my life. And
Right.
we live in a very fast, intense society these days, and we need to take self care in every moment by being mindful of
Yes.
how we're feeling, how we're thinking, and how intense we're taking the situation,
Right.
right?
And and it's very important to take care of yourself, because you cannot show up as your best self for anyone else if you're not taking care of yourself. So,
Hmm.
so please, everyone, think about that one day, or just a few hours, because like I said, I was so into my jobs and my role as a mother and a wife. I wasn't taking care of myself, and I ended up in the hospital and with somebody else taking care of me, and my family having to take care of themselves. So
Hmm.
it's very
Hmm.
important.
Absolutely, absolutely. um I do think, whew, being creative for self care is so huge, and it's the most important element of it. And here we go to the notebooks and the planners again.
Hmm.
You really have to keep a planner, especially when you live a busy lifestyle. Maybe you have a very demanding job, or you have a demanding job and have kids. I remember there was a time in my life where I was doing zero self care, and my health suffered, my mental health suffered,
Right.
my relationships suffered,
Right.
just because I was like all the time. For,
Exactly.
for lack of a better way to put it in words, that's my visual and audio description of how my life was at the time. And had
Yeah.
I
Being
just,
crazy.
yeah, yeah, you feel like your body feels like it's breaking down, and you feel like you're mentally going crazy.
You're
And
losing
I
yourself.
was having panic attacks during that portion of my life, and I didn't know what they were then, but I know now. But I would, like, in the morning routine was horrible. I would start sweating, I would have
Yeah.
palpitations,
Yeah.
just getting out the door and all the things that had to be done.
And that's your body of telling you something is wrong. You need to
Hmm.
slow down. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely.
And
um
Latanya, one other thing with self care that you made me realize was with the journaling. A lot of times, keeping those feelings in, and as women, we're taking care
hmm
of everybody else, and we kind of keep all our feelings bottled up inside, and we don't talk to people, or just writing in that journal your feelings,
hmm
just getting them out on paper is, a good way of self care. You're letting it out, because The longer you keep it in, the more it'll affect you. And even surrounding yourself with, a good circle, a good, circle of friends, to that you can go and talk to, iron
Mm-hmm.
sharpens iron. That's another way,
Right.
self-care, or like we may
Yes.
say, if you have kids, adulting,
Mm-hmm.
it's another
Mm-hmm.
way just to relieve some of that stress.
Yeah, part of emotional self-care is having a supportive set of people around you, whether it be family, friends, even coworkers.
Exactly.
I was lucky that during many portions of my life, I was able to go to work and have self care. I had other adults to talk to about adult
Right.
things, right?
Right.
I could, I'm lucky that I have special interests. I'm a little bit eccentric in some ways that I've been around people who have tolerated me talking to them a million miles per hour about the thing, right? Um, it's so important to look for and create that community for yourself because there are going to be times where you're not going to be good, like you're not going to be okay.
Exactly.
And
Right.
what you need to do for self-care then is find those people, and you don't necessarily have to tell them you're not okay, because if they're your people, they'll know you're not
No, you're not
okay,
okay.
and they're going to give
Exactly.
you the
That's it.
words, the activities, or whatever you need. They're going to be like, come on, let's go do this, let's go do
Hmm.
that.
The
um
hugs.
hmm
Yeah.
exactly.
So that's
I remember there was a time in my life when my sister bought me for a pedicure, and I'm the type of person who sometime in the 90s decided I wasn't going to go to nail shops anymore, right? um and that feeling only got worse because I developed a skin condition on my hands and my feet.
oh wow.
So I was very conscientious about it, and I also didn't want it to
Mhm.
be aggravated. But in the same time, there's something special about somebody providing a pedicure for you instead of you doing it yourself, right?
Right.
And
Right.
I remember being so appreciative of her offering that. I think it was like a Mother's Day gift or something like that. But she recognized as my people that I needed something like that and
Right.
not a
Right.
physical gift. I
Yes.
needed that time away. I needed
Right.
that extra level of care for myself. She was
Exactly.
able to recognize that as
Exactly.
my part of my circle, right?
Right.
So yeah, definitely people around you is crucial, crucial.
Crucial.
I
Exactly.
will say as far as I had a thought and I lost it just that fast. Um
Well, what do you say about taking care of your physical body, and meaning like the type of foods you eat,
okay, my
staying
thought just came
hydrated.
back.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the physical body in a second, but I
Okay.
just thought of what I was gonna say.
Okay.
So in I did one episode of Mental Health Monday in December, and it talks about depression. So if you can go back and watch that, talk about that. But in that episode, I talk about masking
Hmm.
and what masking is. And this goes back to what you were saying about journaling, Laverne. What masking is putting on a face that you need to put on for the moment, right? So if you have children and there's something going on inside of you emotionally, or even physically, your body's not well, we put up fronts. And it takes a lot of energy. It
It
takes a lot of
does.
emotional,
Very
physical energy
exhausting.
to put up fronts because we don't want to disturb our children.
Right.
I'm a nurse. I can't go to work acting sick, acting
Hmm.
crazy,
Right.
acting depressed in front of my patients. So you put up fronts, right?
Hmm.
And so those masks, we get such in the habit of having them that we don't ever take them off.
Off. Right.
So part of your self care involves taking that mask off.
Mask off.
And one thing that can help you do that is through journaling.
Hmm.
Every
Hmm.
now and again, everybody needs to have a good cry
Yeah.
because we've been raised in a society that says crying is not a good thing,
Right.
right? My
Right.
occupation says that you don't cry in the
Only
in the
the weak.
clinical environment, right?
It's seen as a
You're
weakness.
seen as
Yeah.
weak, you're seen as not emotionally stable, but we all
Right.
know that's not accurate. Crying is a physical response to
Can be
what's going
therapeutic.
on with you emotionally.
Right.
It's supposed to happen.
Hmm.
So if we're always suppressing those things, it's not healthy. It's not healthy. So sometimes you need to have a good cry.
Hmm.
I do
That's
every now and again.
that's where a lot of I've seen traumas affect people, their past. They did not fully deal with something in the moment, and it shows up in other aspects of their life. So it's very important, if you're going through things or going through something, for you to deal with that. It's okay, it's okay to feel
Hmm.
those emotions and allow yourself to feel those emotions. That's a form of
Absolutely.
therapy, within.
Absolutely. So, if you want to hear the story about me crying at work that I told in the depression episode, go back and watch that. Um, that was my first time ever like boohoo crying at work. There's been times that I shed a tear too, patients die,
Yeah.
whatever, you're trying to hold it
Right.
back, but like I full on just out of nowhere started crying at work.
Right.
And it was an interesting experience. But I talk a little bit about that in that depression episode of Mental Health Mondays. But so to go back to the physical body, so there's things in our brain called neurotransmitters that need the right building blocks to produce. Some people are naturally deficient due to certain disease processes, um, whether it be mental health or physical. But and they maybe even need extra of these things. They may need vitamin supplementation, but having a balanced diet ensures we have what we need to build the building blocks to be physically well and emotionally well, right? Because of the
Right.
neurotransmitters in our brain.
Okay.
And sometimes we need to recognize that we do need to supplement. We need to be able to eat a balanced diet, mix it up, balance. That's what we have problems with in America, balance,
Hmm.
right? Because all
Balance
of
and
our foods
boundaries.
are prepackaged, high fructose corn syrup with gluten and fat, and all this kind of things. We're not eating enough fresh fruits and vegetables. We're not preparing our foods correctly. Obviously, we live in the South. I'm sure if you're not from the South, you've heard our accents by now. But there's a tradition in the South of preparing your vegetables with meats and fats, right? You got to
Right.
put the salt meat
Hmm.
into the
Hmm.
greens, right?
It ain't gonna
Um,
taste right.
hmm Yeah, yeah.
It's gonna
I
taste
did learn at a
like
period of
coffee.
time. It's a quick tip. If you put liquid smoke in your greens, or your vegetables, it does give it a hint of maybe there's some meat in here.
Girl, my
Um,
husband gonna say you cheating.
but learning how to create balance. And the thing is, on Thanksgiving we could have our fatty, salty, whatever greens, but we can't be eating that every other day, right?
Right. Right.
It's all about
And
balance.
boundaries. Balance and
Don't
boundaries.
fully deprive yourself of anything trying to create an environment of self-care, because that in and of itself is not self-care.
Right.
Self-care does rely on creating balance and not doing anything extreme, right?
Exactly.
So we can have those things sometimes, just not all the time. And back to the exercise, exercising regularly is more important than exercising in an extreme fashion, right? So doing um, 2 or 3 hours of weightlifting twice a week may be good for some people, but not necessarily everybody. Some people may need to break it up over 4 or 5 days.
Hmm.
It's very individually oriented,
Listen
as
to
is
your
diet.
body.
Different people's diets have different needs based on their bodies, right? And that's something you need to learn over time. There's several good books out there about eating for your DNA, and we'll get to that kind of details in another episode. But these are all the things you need to be thinking about when you think about self-care. Um, but yeah, so we're coming up on 42 minutes. Unfortunately, Nicole was not able to join us again. She'll be here in subsequent weeks. Um, I think on most weekends we will be a whole hour, as we will have three people talking instead of just two. And I don't want to stretch me or Laverne too far as talking. Um, So what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and close out now. But before you go, remember the link in the comments for the 10K giveaway, because I want to give away that $100, right? And those books and those journals. Remember, we talked about journals several times during this conversation, writing things down, planning your self-care. So make sure you enter the giveaway, follow all the platforms. I'm going to put a link after the show for Laverne's Facebook profile as well as Lacole's Facebook profile. So y'all can go follow them. Um, Make sure you join us every Saturday for this show, Self Care Saturdays, and every Monday for Mental Health Monday. Again, this Monday we will be talking about addiction, okay? Not just addiction to drugs, but also other things, right? Addiction to food. I'm addicted to sweets. And I go in and out. I have times where I'm not managing the addiction well. and I have times where I do good, but it's something I do realize for myself is a full addiction. So we're going to talk about vices. Everybody has a vice of some kind. So sometimes it's healthy, sometimes it's unhealthy, right? So we're going to talk about addiction, and in further episodes, we'll talk more specifically about different types of addiction to various substances. We'll talk about food addiction or addiction. I actually was when I was making notes about future episodes, we're going to have an episode about eating disorders on Mental Health Mondays, and not just anorexia, bulimia, because people see that as very dangerous, and whatever. But overeating is dangerous too. It can kill you too, just not as quickly, right?
Right.
So we're going to introduce the topic of addiction so we could set the stage for future episodes. So follow all of the platforms so you won't miss an episode. If you're following or watching from my personal page, make sure you follow the other pages, because eventually I will stop streaming this on my personal page. It will
Don't forget
just
about
be
the
on the coaching
contest, y'all.
page. Yes, somebody's got to get that $100.
Mm-hmm.
I've been blessed that I've been diversifying my entrepreneurship, and I have gotten a check from Facebook. And so I am giving all of it plus some away, right?
Right.
So y'all make sure you enter. I want somebody to win. I don't want to get to the end and have like 2 people on there. I have 8 journals and $100. I want to give it all away. Okay.
Awesome.
So any parting words, Laverne, before I close out?
No, not that I can think of. Just one thing, guys, just make sure you're taking care of yourselves to show up as your best you and be able to better take care of others by taking care of yourself. But have a great, happy Saturday and
Awesome.
a good weekend.
Yes, happy weekend, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday here in Louisiana. It's not too hot, not too cold. It's a little cold for
That's
me,
right.
though, because I'm a little cold natured, but I am going to get outside and take care of some things this afternoon, and that I've been wanting to
Beautiful
do.
day.
So get outside, get some fresh air, some sunshine, and y'all have a good rest of the weekend. And we'll see y'all Monday evening for Mental Health Mondays. Goodbye,
Bye,
everyone.
y'all.